This is Marquivus Furious Nias, and you're listening to Deeper Than Music Radio.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.
Hello. This is Marquivus Nias, Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I like to say what's up to everybody listening to us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, and Spotify. Like to shout out Sue Wong. I got to attend her Oscar gala and met some wonderful people. Prior to going to the gala, I researched the people that were going to be there, and one particular director and special effects person really grabbed my attention. For one, he's from my hometown of San Antonio, and two, he's in the Guinness Book Records for the most kills in a slasher film. Special effects guru and director, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Castro is here on Deeper Than Music Radio. How you doing, Joe?
Thanks for having me, Marquivus. I'm doing great tonight. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show. And just doing research, because kind of you remind me of when I watched The Making of Thriller, and I saw John Landis's, or the people that work with John Landis, all the special effects and like the bodies and the werewolves and stuff like that. And my first question to you is a question I had for John Landis, because you do this exact same things, and I've seen your work. Like, how did you get into special effects? Like, how did that? Just how, like?
Like, where does that all come from, huh?
Yeah. What was the birth of that? An inspiration?
You know, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that question. Basically, I grew up in South Texas, just outside of San Antonio, on a goat ranch. We had like 55 acres of property out there. And, I had a very wild imagination as a young person, like all young people do. And I grew up liking like dragons and dinosaurs, like a lot of young men do. And my father knew that I had an interest in that. And one Saturday afternoon, he was babysitting me. I was 7 years old. My mother was away on a trip with her friends from work on a cruise, and he said, "Watch this, son. You're going to like it." So he sat me down in front of the TV. And I guess he figured I'd be babysat for like 2 hours watching a movie right on Saturday afternoon, creature feature, and it was Godzilla versus the Smog Monster, and that was in 1977. I remember it clear as a bell. And when that movie was over, I was watching Godzilla fight this smog monster, and like he was destroying the town, and the smog monster put out like all this smog in the air, and it like had like, it was like acid smog, and it like burned people's skin off their faces, and then Godzilla had like his like breath, he's like trying to burn the smog monster, and I'm like, that it's everything about that film, like everything in it I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to create that stuff. I wanted to create characters like that and creatures and play with special effects. When that movie was done, I knew exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Yeah.
So how did you were you the like in for Halloween the person that did people's makeup, or how was the how did you get started into it? Like start playing?
You're right.
Yeah.
I think back in the day, I grew up in the 70s and early 80s in school. And we used to have this thing called the Johnson Smith catalog. And it was a novelty catalog. And it would come in the mail. You get in the mail, it's free. So the Johnson Smith company would send you, you could order it out of like the back of a comic book. And they'd send you their catalog. And it basically was like 25 pages, these little black and white pages, these little boxes of little items you could order, and had little descriptions, and it was just all this like, like this like crazy like costume, gag gif, party trick junk, you could buy. You could buy like a crawling mechanical hand or a skeleton or like a werewolf mask or, disappearing ink or, fake vampire blood in a tube. And that's where it all really started. I would order stuff out of the Johnson Smith catalog. And I started playing with, the makeup I would get from there, like, vampire makeup and vampire blood and vampire teeth. And but eventually I was introduced to the actually kind of like the pinnacle of horror that really took off in the late 70s and early 80s, the slasher films and the horror creature features, all the practical effects by my cousin who also grew up in San Antonio. His name was Eddie Perez, and when I was 11, he was 33. And we became best friends like right away because we both had an interest in like dark horror films. And even at the age of 11, I knew what I wanted. And he would take me to like these. There were, back in the day, they would show a movie at the movie theater and it didn't have to be rated. Only on some of the movie theaters, they would show unrated movies. So that would mean the movie did not get a rating by the MPAA of America because it was too gross or too violent or too much in it, and they would not give it a rating. So they just released it unrated, and it's like no one under 17 would be admitted, period, to one of those films. But my cousin Eddie would sneak me into these movies, and we saw like these Italian horror films, these Italian zombie movies, and all the unrated movies from foreign countries where they had just like all these grotesque makeup effects and people getting their heads cut off and brains and all of it, And he bought me a magazine that taught me how to make my very first rubber mask for my birthday. Yeah.
Wow. And I noticed
that's
that
where it all really began.
Like at 15, you also were hired for a special effects makeup for a PBS affiliate.
Right. That's right. That was when people ask me how long I've been doing this, I refer back to that date. That was the first time I was ever given a check to create makeup effects. I was paid for to be a special effects makeup artist, and basically someone was shooting something for a PBS show, and they needed me to make this young man up into several different looks as an older gentleman, a younger person, different hairstyles and whatnot, and I kind of aged him, and I was able to use a little bit of my special effect knowledge that I had to do this job, and I got paid a check. That was the first time I'd ever gotten paid to be a special effects artist. So I've been working in this field since I was 15 years old.
And that's pretty impressive at 15 because, normally then everybody's getting like a regular job, a mall job, cutting grass or something like that. And here you are doing special effects at 15. And in my mind, I imagine that's got to, I just, again, reference to Making a Thriller, very intricate, takes hours, and it's like being a painter. So I mean, being at 15, that's very impressive. And I also note that you started off with a portable VHS camera. That's what got you into directing and making your own movies.
That's right. When my cousin Eddie bought me that magazine that taught me how to make a rubber mask when I believe I was 11. It may have been for my 12th birthday, and my birthday was in May, and then that following Christmas, my parents bought me the very first VHS camcorder that came out on the retail market. That was 1982, and I just naturally gravitated towards making monsters and then videotaping them and putting them in my own films. And I never looked back. I've never looked back. And I made a promise to my father that I would always continue to chase my dreams and make films.
And that's cool that your parents supported you and nurtured that talent. Just out of curiosity, who are as far as your special effects directing overall, who are your influencers? Like, who do you look up to and who influences you to create your work?
That's a very good question. I changed over the years, but growing up, it was definitely special effects artists like Tom Savini and the director Fulci from the Italian zombie horror films, and David Cronenberg, who is very well known for the remake of The Fly in 1985. And, these men were groundbreaking. They did groundbreaking work in the field, and their films are, and what they've done, and the special effects and the stories they've told are untouchable. And they have been mimicked and duplicated and copied by countless filmmakers since they, made their big hits. And, but today my biggest influence is Mother Nature. I feel in many ways I have, I've gotten to a point where I have to seek my inspiration even beyond what my peers are doing and what the people I'm working with are doing. I have to go to almost like a power outside of myself in order to become even better than I am today. And so I always say that Mother Nature is the greatest artist of all. So I'm always looking for something in the real world to influence me. And there's always something that's happened on this planet. The truth is stranger than fiction. And if you look deep enough and hard enough, you will find some of the most amazing things that people have never even dared dream about actually occurring on this planet.
Wow. And that is deep and it is very true. 1993, you produced and directed
it's
your
so
first.
True.
Yeah. So in '93, you produced your first feature film, Ceremony, 33
That's
millimeter
correct.
Panavision, apocalyptic horror thriller, and out of that, you won an award. Can you take us through what was the catalyst for you to direct your own film and being your first? How was the experience?
Well, back in 1993, we didn't have iPhones and we didn't have digital cameras. And when you made a movie, you made a moving picture, which is basically a series of actual moving pictures shot on 35 millimeter. And so it was a big deal to make a movie. You had to have a film camera, and you had to buy film that goes in the camera, and then you had to shoot the film, and then you couldn't just rewind it and watch it right there. You had to send it to a photo lab where they developed the film, and then only then could you determine and see whether or not the take was perfect.
Wow.
So, and that was expensive. It was really, really expensive. Really expensive to do. So, I'd always wanted to make movies. I've always wanted to make films, and the very first one, ever since then, I've never made an actual shot on film since, but the very first one was a shot on 35 millimeter Panavision movie. And, young people today, or people that make movies today, they have such a luxury that they don't have to go through that process in order to get their ideas out to the public. But just the film stock alone to process 90 minutes worth of actual film. That's if you only shoot one take per shot. If it's 90 minutes for a 90-minute movie, that's $100,000 right there.
Wow.
Just for the cost of the film stock. And then you had to develop it, and that's another $90,000. So, like I said, it was a totally different era, totally different animal making a movie back then. I'm very honored and proud to have been able to make at least one of my films shot on 35 millimeter. And it's definitely an experience I will never forget. Yeah.
And what's great about it is you won a silver award at the Worldfest in Charleston Film Festival. So I take that was it was well worth the time and money spent.
It was. In fact, my first film, it's funny, it's really the only film I've made that's never got a negative review. It's my least known film because it was on 35 millimeter Panavision. It came out in 95, was released to Blockbuster. But it's my least known film. It's the only one that's never gotten a bad review. Very proud of it. And, I just, I can't stress enough about how much of an amazing experience it was. And I'm really, really close with the people still that I made that movie with. It was just such an adventure. When people make movies these days, it's you get this movie family, each film was a new family, and I'm still very, very close. In fact, the producer and the director of photography, who is the same man, his name is Stephen Gaynor. He's my best. I have a couple of best friends, and he is absolutely, my best friend still today. And that was, I met him back in 1990, and we made our first shot on film feature in 93, and we're still best friends today. Yeah.
But then also you, TOONS, and I know that's like a cult film, like produced, directed, and created the special effects. Like, how was the experience with the TOONS?
Okay, TOONS. Let's talk about that experience. TOONS. A lot of people don't know what TOONS is. It's even hard to pronounce the title. If you try to Siri TOONS, it always spells the last word TUNES, but it's actually TOONS, like cartoons. Yeah. So it's TOONS, like killer cartoons. And every once in a while, Siri will get it right. Because I'll be Siriing to somebody the title. I'll say TOONS, and it'll spell it correctly. And only because you can purchase TOONS 3 on iTunes. But the whole magic behind making that film, and why do people want to know about it? That movie, the original TOONS, came out in 2002. Mm-hmm. It was we made the entire movie for $2,300. And we shot it in days, Easter weekend, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that movie was in every Blockbuster in America, sitting on the shelf right next to Pirates of the Caribbean. And there were 8 copies in every store. And the thing about it is, when young people who want to make movies watch that film, and they see that someone spent $2,300 making a film, got it on the market, it's fun, it's entertaining, it has inspired so many countless people to make their own films. And I get friend requests all the time on Facebook, and people reaching out to me, sending me private messages saying, Joe, I'm making my first slasher movie because I saw TOONS and I saw that you made it in 3 days for $2,300, and I knew that I could do it, and thanks for being such an inspiration. And that's what makes it all worthwhile right there.
Yeah,
hearing that.
And that's awesome, because one thing that I wanted to ask you is, I know with movies, especially doing indie, and as you were speaking, like, there's a cost that comes with it. How did you budget your first initial projects before you secured distribution and backing?
Well, the first film that I made with the 35 millimeter one, that film at the time, Blockbuster had a guarantee return of $150,000 up front if they took it. And that was just Blockbuster. That was just Blockbuster. Then there was also Hollywood Video, and then there were other foreign outlets. It was a very, very different time, So whenever I make a film as an independent person, that's just the nature of the beast these days. If independent movies do not come with distribution attached unless the distributor themselves is paying for it. Mm-hmm. So, like, let's say, for instance, Universal Studios is a distributor, so they would be paying for the film, so the distribution is already attached. But when I'm making an independent film, I'm just trying to make a great movie. Yeah. And I try to make the movie marketable and commercial. And over the years, after making 18 feature films, I have the knowledge to understand what I'm going to need when I walk into a distributor's office and ask them if they want to, distribute my film and what they have to offer. I'm going to know what kind of specs I'm going to need to bring in there in order to make my film something that they want in their library, so they can get behind it and market it in a way that it will reach a mass audience. I used to make a lot of independent avant-garde films, but over the years, I've learned how to incorporate my art into mainstream cinema. I don't necessarily go out of my way to make avant-garde, underground cult movies anymore. And so with that, you have a whole new audience. I just released, we just released our first PG-13 movie ever, and it's a science fiction film. It's titled Xenophobia. It's out right now on all home media platforms, Amazon Prime, not Amazon Instant Video, and all the regular home media outlets. But it was in every Walmart in America. And the great thing about that is the movie is basically PG-13. It's reached a very, very, very large audience. And I've never made a PG-13 movie before. And so, going back to like all the blood and the gore, and then kind of making this transition into my career into doing more mainstream films, I think I get more of a payoff when more people get to enjoy it and see it. So I'm looking forward to making more films that are more open to a bigger audience. Yeah.
That's pretty cool, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because my next question was the Summer Massacre, the Summer of Massacre. Did you intentionally,
Yes.
This has got the Guinness Book of World Records for the most kills or body count in a slasher film. Did you go in
That's
mind
right.
creating this, like, hey, I'm about to break a record with this, or did it just evolve
Oh yeah.
with the creation?
Oh yeah. No, I knew what I was doing when I set out to do it. And my partner and I wanted to set this world record. And, it was very difficult keeping it quiet from the cast and crew while we were making it. And it took a lot of technical specs to make sure it happened in a way that it would be correct for a Guinness Book of World Record. And we worked very hard to achieve it. But ultimately, the film, it was the most pirated movie for 2 months in a row on YouTube. When it was every day, people were just putting it up on YouTube and just pirating it and putting it all over the world. The distributor could not keep up with it because so many people wanted to see it. And I remember, like I said, for the first 2 months, we just could not keep it down. I mean, YouTube would take it down. I mean, right away. We'd send them it would take them about 30 minutes, but they would have it down. But still, it was very difficult to keep up with it. And at one point, we just had to say, okay, we just had to let it go, like it was a child out in the world, And people were gonna. This is a very primitive world we live in, and people want what they want when they want it, and they have no problem going out of their way to get it or do what they need to do to get it. And there's a lot of illegal activity, and there was nothing we could do to stop it from being pirated.
But I think,
and it was kind of a first of its kind, the first of its kind, and everybody wanted it because it was a first of its kind.
yeah, and it speaks to the demand of your movie, your work.
That's true.
And it's pretty impressive, like in a movie, 155 kills. So out of your impressive and I mean, great career, 46 awards in producing, directing, and creating special effects, what would you say out of this great career that you have, what has been the most challenging aspect of it?
The most challenging, that's a good question. That's a very good question. And the most challenging aspect of my entire career has been dealing with friendships that have turned into frenemies, enemies, over jealousy, envy, and greed. This is a very, LA is a very self-seeking, self-centered town. People move here to pursue their career and their dreams. Just by that alone, it makes it a very self-absorbed atmosphere. And I'm very fortunate that I've been able to pursue this dream with my partner, Steven Escobar, who I've been with for 22 years now. We just celebrated our 22-year anniversary. And we chased this dream. Yeah, thank you. We chased this dream together. But a lot of people come here without support. And it's like an alligator pit here, And some of the people that I thought would be by my side toward the very end, just like I truly believe were my best of friends, turned into my worst enemies simply because of jealousy over the success of my career. And it's a shame. It happens. But, you just got to keep the good ones close. And I've learned over the years to see the signs and cut them loose long before they try to pull you back down with them,
Yeah, and it's
I
funny
hope I
that
answered your question.
No, it speaks to, because I mean, actually it was me and my crew were there, and it was a wonderful experience, great great experience. But I was, people get apprehensive and like, oh, I'm going to this and the looks and it's, you're around stars and celebrities. And my whole take is, and one thing that you speak to and the show speaks to, that everybody, no matter what in life, it's all the human level. Everybody feels the same, goes through the same emotions. And as I was sitting there, at Sue Wong's Oscar Gala, one thing that brought to my attention is, that, yeah, it's like you said, it's a very image driven, it's Hollywood, right? It's very image driven industry. And then, I also wondered, like, the stress of that and, fame is a beast. Like Jay-Z says, fame is worse than heroin, right? And it's a drug. And, actually, as I was at the gala, that was one of my thoughts. And, you just spoke to it. Like, unfortunately, in that industry, people change, and sometimes people don't embrace your success, or there's jealousy and envy, which is unfortunate. But like you said, you've learned now to recognize that early now and kind of cut people like that loose.
There's no remedy for jealousy. It's like a bacterial infection, or a fungus. Once it takes root, you got to cut it out. Yeah. You got to get rid of it, because there is no cure for it.
And you're exactly right.
But thing about, because they're never going to admit they're jealous. While they're stabbing you in the back, they're never going to admit they're jealous. But the truth is, what happens is, the higher you climb, instead of stepping on someone to get ahead, people, I've noticed, and I've surrounded myself with these people. People use their power of fame and success for good. There's people that, look at Kobe. Look, there's so many people that use, and I surround myself with these people that use their star power to make other people feel good. It's like, how we make other people feel about themselves says a lot about us.
Yeah.
So when someone's hating and bringing someone down, that says a lot about the person who's hating. And I try to incorporate that tradition into all my affairs in my life, because I've yet to see it hurt anybody while making someone else feel good about themselves.
And I feel like the energy that you put out in the world, you get back, right? The law of attraction.
That's right.
Another question I had on the flip side is, what has been your work, as far as your illustrious career, the awards, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your career?
That's a great question. There's several of them, but to top it off, I'm just going to have to go back to, being able to celebrate all these amazing accomplishments in my life with my partner, Stephen, for 22 years is probably been the best thing ever. I'm I feel like I just began, to be honest with you. Like, even though I've been doing this for almost 38 years, I feel like I've just began. And the reason why I feel that way is because I remain teachable. Yeah. But ultimately, being able to make these dreams come true with my partner, if I died in my sleep tonight, I would die a happy man, and, I'm young and I don't want to die in my sleep, but if I did, I would die a happy man. I'm just saying, it's already a dream come true. Everything else is icing at this point. So, yeah.
And like you said, like we spoke about Kobe, it was unfortunate that Kobe passed, but then when you look at his life, he's done so much.
And he had such a full life.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you're saying
I only hope, Go ahead.
And no, I was going to say, so you're saying like you're at that place. Heaven forbid anything. You still got more work to do, but
right.
You're content with life. You're living the dream and you're fulfilling. You touch a lot of people, and the awards, the accolades, and the body of work speaks for itself. So, as with all my great interviews, Joe, and again, thank you. And it's inspiring to hear this from somebody from my hometown, because when people talk about San Antonio, it's the Alamo or SeaWorld or Six Flags. Like, no, we actually have people from the town that are doing great things. So this is awesome to meet you and you to share your story. Now it's shameless promotion time. Like, what do you have in the works? where can people hear about you, your films, and what you have coming out in the future?
Right. Okay. Well, right now, if anybody wants to stop what they're doing and go check out some of my work, you can see Terror Toons 1, 2, and 3 and the Summer Massacre on Amazon Prime right now. Or you can get a copy of Xenophobia, which is a movie about the fear of aliens. If you like Star Wars, The Outer Limits, and Twilight Zone, you will like Xenophobia. You can get that right now on all the home media platforms or your local Walmart. And, if you want to make a movie, you can reach out to me on Facebook. I'm at facebook.com/Joe.Castro, or you can reach out to me on Instagram. I rarely check my messages there, though. I'm more of a Facebook person, but it's Joe_Castro_director. And more importantly, send me a direct message. Say hello when you send me a friend request. So that way we can strike up a conversation. And, if you need movie studio quality special effects in your film, I'm your guy. I got 38 years experience now, and I feel like I've just begun. I want to be 99 years old on a movie set putting special effects on somebody. I don't see any reason why we can't make that happen.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for Joe Castro for coming out here, sharing your story. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here on Deeper Than Music with Marquivas, and this is Mark with Joe Castro signing off. Thank you.
Deeper Than Music.
Thank you.
The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.